This 3 a.m. Pillow Talk, and we have the hosts of No Alcohol Needed, and we have Amber on, which is a regular on the No Alcohol Needed. So we're gonna have kind of a roundtable discussion about masculinity, and we're just gonna see where this goes. So we're just gonna dive right in and see where it goes. How you doing, Amber? Can I get some background? What's your
Yeah,
background?
absolutely. Yeah, my name is Amber. I grew up on the East Coast, Massachusetts. I spent the last 10 years in Rhode Island. And a little over just about a year and a half ago, I decided to leave everything I knew and everyone I knew behind and move to Colorado. So I live in Grand Junction, Colorado now, and I'm thriving like I never have before. Completely different career field, and yeah, just overall loving life right
All
now. So,
right. Now we have Julie Miller. You are with Steve on the podcast No Alcohol Needed.
Yes, I
Um,
am a co-host of No Alcohol Needed. Yeah.
yeah. What's your story? How did that start with you? Because I talked to Steve about a week ago.
Well, okay, so the short version is I, ended up drinking too much in my 20s, into my 30s. It turned into a big problem. I hid it really well for a long time. My story is more like perfectionism than like big dramatic rock bottom moment. So like I wasn't, the one I looked like I had it all together. But I was like falling apart inside. So eventually I stopped drinking, met Steve. I was about 30 days sober when I met Steve. We met online. We met in an online support group for people who were quitting alcohol. And eventually, like, we ended up just kind of supporting each other through early sobriety, got to know each other that way. It was like we kind of mentored each other back and forth for a while. And then we realized how much we like talking about all of the stuff that has to do with sobriety. And really, we dug into the emotional intelligence part of that and the like understanding why we are the way we are and why we react the way we react. And so it became very much about that stuff. And I think at some point you realize when you quit drinking, it doesn't have that much to do with alcohol. Like it's all the other stuff inside that was making you run to the alcohol. So that's the stuff we focus on the podcast. That's the stuff we focused on in our own stories. Yeah, so that was almost 4.5 years ago that we met. We've been running the podcast now for 3.5 years.
You guys got a lot
And
of episodes under your belt. I would think that. So I would think that that could cover a lot of behaviors too, instead of just drinking, right? Like figuring out the reasons we're reacting the way we are, or
yeah.
because there's a lot of stuff that can be involved with addiction that wouldn't even have alcohol and drugs behind it. It would be addictive behaviors, maybe patterns you fall into that would that kind of tie into alcoholism, you think? Would that kind of
Yeah, so our tagline for the podcast is hanging out on the corner of emotional intelligence, personal growth, and living an alcohol-free life. So we focus on all of the stuff that makes life better
okay?
after you take alcohol out of it. And I mean, a lot of it for when you drank for a long time, a lot of that goes back to the alcohol. But really, our podcast is for anybody that is focusing on getting more emotionally intelligent, learning why they are the way they are, working on personal growth. It's kind of that awakening sort of concept where we realized that we were doing all this fucked up stuff that we weren't supposed to be like that's not normal and healthy, and how to not do it anymore. Like
Yeah.
that's what we focus on. So yeah, that's kind of the gist of the podcast in a nutshell, I would say.
We could have called it like the Unfucked podcast, but we didn't.
We're about to release an episode where we were talking about love and romantic
Yeah.
relationships and stuff, and I was cracking up because at one point we had a couple of therapists on, and so the one guy is like, so it's like when you're one of those people and you realize that you're fucked up, so you start doing something about it, and then you're in a relationship with somebody who doesn't. And anyway, it turned into like those people are the ones who are fucked up, but they don't know that they're fucked up yet. So then when you have the fucked up people with the I don't know I'm fucked up people, then you have, so there's the word fuck a whole lot. But anyway, that's
Nope.
essentially what it's about. It's realizing that you've got some stuff, and
Yeah.
figuring out what to do about it. So,
Yeah, and I actually heard something that single person counseling therapy can actually it has impact on relationships
oh
and
yeah.
a big breakup impact because one person is doing the work and they start improving their lives and the other person isn't. So I always try to suggest couples counseling,
Hmm.
like kind of try to get into it together and try to make it a thing together. So yeah.
Or at least both people be growing at the same time. I think
Yeah,
that's really
working on
important.
something and noticing behaviors because it's not our job to point out someone else's behavior.
Yeah.
Our
I'm gonna
Go ahead, bro.
add something into that one, and it's
Yeah,
not that both people are just growing; they're growing and sharing the growth.
Right.
yeah, yeah,
Definitely.
And because if one is growing and the other one's growing independently, which you have to do anyways, but if you don't share the growth, you never actually realize what's changed until it smacks you upside the freaking face and you wonder why. Like it feels like a distancing in the relationship when if you're both growing and at least if you're sharing the growth, even if the path is
yeah,
different,
yeah. I
you
like.
can still cheer each other on and you can still be on the same page or close to it. Like sometimes one person grows a lot in a relationship and the other person is like very stagnant and I mean this has happened to me where I'm like, "Hey, I'm still way the fuck down here." And you either have to pick your shit up and start carrying it along with you to catch up, right? Like I'm picturing this little guy with a backpack going like trying to catch up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, but you can feel the distance because of growth. And
Okay.
if you
That
don't
makes.
talk about it, and if you don't like become a part of it somehow, then you become a part of the distancing instead.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm a big believer also in trauma. So I think you heal where you're at. So I'm a big believer that relational trauma, relationship trauma has to be healed when you're in a relationship. Because you can sit by yourself, you can sit there and you can write in your journal, and you can do all the magic therapy type things all by yourself. But the second you get into that dark alley or that relationship, all that trauma is going to kick right back up, and you're going to figure out that you really just kind of learned maybe a little bit of self love, but there's a whole bunch of stuff there that goes with it.
The opposite is healing.
Huh? Say
Yeah.
that again?
So
Okay,
What's
go.
that?
I'm just going to say that healing happens when you experience the opposite. So, when you've been in a traumatic relationship, when you've experienced trauma in
Yeah,
your life, even in a parental relationship or whatever that is, and you show up in a healthy relationship and you experience the opposite of that trauma,
yeah,
that's when the healing happens.
yeah. That when you're shown that pattern that you're looking for and that pattern recognition, that's not that doesn't have to be that pattern.
So
Exactly.
we
Yeah.
were on Zoom and we had a lovely person that joined us and they were an older generation, like a mother, father type figure.
Okay.
And they showed up and they started sharing parts of their life with us. And let me tell you, I could see in the room, and Julie and Amber were there. I could see in the room as she was sharing because she was the age of our parents.
Yeah.
I could see almost all of us tear up because she was saying stuff that we wished we heard from our parents, and like it, I could see the trauma like a band-aid come off and heal a little bit and then get put back on. Like
Hmm.
I could see it, and it was the opposite. It was like someone of that age that fit the bill that was saying the thing that you wish you heard from mom or dad,
Yeah.
and it's not like they did anything wrong. It was just what you wished you heard. You know what I mean? Uh, anyways, like I felt it in that moment when that share happened, and I was like, "Holy shit!" There is a whole bunch of generational trauma that just got exposed right here,
Yep.
and it just got healed a little bit. It just
Yeah.
got healed a little bit.
Mhm.
It was
Yeah.
cool.
It's amazing how a lot of that stuff can come out through your subconscious also. Like
Mm-hmm.
Carl Jung has that quote, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life. So it's
Yeah.
amazing how trauma and the stuff we've been through, if we are not actually taking an active look and digging deeper into ourselves, how we're making decisions that we're not even driving a car. Our trauma is driving the car. And then we keep figuring out why we keep ending up in the same situation.
Mm-hmm.
So, Amber, you want to jump in here?
Yeah, I'm laughing, because that was my MO, and it was just like, my life just kept repeating itself, and of course that just drove me further into victimhood. It was like, why does this keep happening? Like what, like I have no idea, why this shit just keeps happening over and over and over again. Like I don't want this, right? It's like I say the words, but I was completely unaware. I was choosing it. I was choosing it over and over and over again because the unconscious, was trying to recreate things from childhood that I hadn't healed from, and trying and continuously trying to recreate that trauma in my relationships to give me an opportunity to try to change what happened in my childhood. And it wasn't until I saw that, it wasn't until I took that radical responsibility for my own shit, that I was choosing, certain individuals or certain personality types or behaviors, just based on stuff that I was unaware of, But then once you see it, you can't unsee it, and so,
Yeah, I've been in a
you know.
spot like that. So where I started was when I first started trying to actually kind of look deeper into psychology and why we do the things we do. I was stuck in this endless loop. Like I had made it out of the cocaine and the alcohol loop for the most part, but I was still stuck in a loop of pattern and behaviors that were leading my relationships that I had with women down the same road that I already knew and that I was comfortable with.
Hmm.
So I tried to when I first started looking into kind of romantic masculine feminine energy and romantic relationships and how they relate to each other. I started watching a lot of red pill stuff. Now I'm not sure if you guys know what the red pill stuff is, but it's kind of misogynistic. It's like Andrew Tate, and it's a lot of these guys that are flashy cars and sports cars, and the woman has to be faithful, and we can go fuck however many women we want because it's a caveman thing. It's a thing from an evolutionary psychology, biology type thing. And so that was my first. I was actually in the middle of a relationship, and I said, "Wow, I keep doing these same things over and over, and I'm wrecking my life. I'm dragging people down here with me." So I started watching this red pill stuff and just ruined that relationship because of the red pill stuff. So thinking like, "Oh yeah, like I know what I'm doing, and this is this, and this is this," and realized that I had during the first part of that relationship, I had already drug it down to where I was comfortable, to where, I had drug her down to a level I was comfortable because that's where I thought I was. And then after that, during the self improvement thing, I had a really hard time distinguishing how a man was supposed to be a man and a woman was supposed to be a woman, or moreover, just how a man was supposed to be a man.
Mhm.
And a lot of it's out there. A lot of it is misinformation and it's misleading. And you have to be very careful, I think, especially younger men have to be very careful about the content they're watching because there's a lot of men out there that are teaching the wrong things.
Hmm.
I'm gonna jump in here because the whole reason that I had suggested to Steve, like, we need to do a show on like this macho performative masculinity thing, because he showed me a reel one day and he's like, check this out. And it's like a men's masculinity coach. And he's talking to the camera, and I could not even tell you what it was that he was saying, but he was literally shooting up testosterone on camera while he's talking to guys about what it means to be masculine. Like, that made him cool and tough, and like
Oh,
that was the thing to strive for. And I was like, holy shit, if this is what we are teaching men, especially either young men or men who are not confident in their masculinity, if we're showing them this and saying this is what you're supposed to be like, we have some problems. Because I guarantee you no woman wants to be in a relationship with somebody who thinks it's cool and tough and macho and masculine to shoot up testosterone on a reel on Instagram. That was
Yeah.
weird for me.
If I can, I know, I know I'm starting to yap. So if so, it gets a little deeper than that too. So if you look into all right, all right, let me go on a little rant for a minute, and this is going to sidetrack us for a minute, but I promise I'll bring it right back. Since the sexual revolution, we have had more single parent, single mother households and more abortions. It's skyrocketed. So we've got more young men growing up with single mothers, and not. I'm a big believer. You need a poor um somebody to look up to who's doing it wrong, and somebody who to look up to who's doing it right. So you need a poor example and a good example. So you need to be able to balance that out and find somewhere in the middle. If you're growing up with just a bad example or no example of how a man is supposed to be, how he's supposed to treat women, how he's supposed to move in the world, you're lost. And when they came out with toxic masculinity, I don't believe there's anything toxic about it, but I feel like a lot of the people who are really receptive, a lot of the men who are really receptive, who really wanted a change, and a lot of the young men were being told that there is something inherently about us that's toxic.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so everyone, I think everyone got confused there for a little while.
Well, and if we're going to do the history lesson thing, so if you take one generation back and go to the Industrial Revolution, so
Yeah,
pre-Industrial Revolution, you've got little boys out in the fields with their dads and their uncles and their brothers and their grandpas and all of the neighborhood men working in fields, learning how to do stuff, being completely surrounded by, like you said, positive and negative role models. But the
yeah,
boys were surrounded by men. And
yeah,
then we have the Industrial Revolution. All the dads go to work. They put on their suit, they grab their suit, their briefcase, they head to work, and mom is now responsible for parenting the boys, where before dad and all of the men in the community were more responsible for that. So you've got mom who is just trying to like make the household function so little boys learn, oh, we just have to stay quiet and keep mom happy. That's it. That's like our whole goal in life, right? Like, and it's not like mom intended for that, but she's just trying to keep house and get everybody to school and do the stuff she's got to do. So that generation of boys learned our only job is to do exactly what mom says so we don't make her mad. And
yeah,
then their whole belief becomes that's the whole like happy wife, happy life thing that happens.
yeah,
And then that carried into the sexual revolution, which then you're talking about. So like boys have been like they've had their healthy masculinity examples ripped away from them since like the 1950s. And
yeah.
so it's hard to come by now. And men nowadays, our generation, they're like, what are we even supposed to do? What's it supposed to look like?
Well,
Yeah, I
especially
like
when
that.
you
I like that spin. Go ahead, Steve. I'm sorry.
no, it's all good. Especially when you take the term masculinity and then you throw the word toxic in front of it
Yes.
with no explanation as to what that actually means. You hear masculinity and you're like, well, I'm a man. This is something that I should have. This is something that I should work on. This is something that it's important to you. Inherently, it's important to you without even putting words to it. And then as soon as you see the word toxic in front of the thing that's important to you, it equals bad,
Yeah.
right? Without discerning it or whatever, because language has way the fuck more power than we give it credit for. So as soon as you throw that out into the sphere, and it just takes off like wildfire, and it that level of macho. When I see stuff like that, the first thing I wonder is, what are you making up for? And where's your insecurity? Because
Yeah.
we're we're taking care of some sort of shit back here
Yeah.
by putting on this puffed out chest, by being all big and broad for absolutely no fucking reason. There's a time and a place to puff out your chest
Yeah.
and to stand up for what's right. There's a
Yeah.
time and that's not macho, that's just being a man. But puffing out your chest just to puff out your chest so everyone can see that you're loud and you're big or you're whatever. I
Well,
look at that like somebody with a jacked up vehicle, and I'm going, huh? What are you making up for, buddy?
let's go ahead and let me give you a let me play a little bit of devil's advocate. All right.
I love it.
So let's say a lot of that could be a trauma response coming from that.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Okay, so what did we have in World War II and World War III? Are just a couple generations ago. The term "suck it up" came from a soldier. If he was he had a flight mask on, and if he threw up, he was told to suck it up and keep fighting. Man up, man, get in the tank. So we come from generations of men who had no idea. They were just told, "Oh no, if you have a problem, it's just shell shock." We don't know how to express our emotions in a healthy way. We bottle them up, and then they come out in unhealthy ways. And that I think that could be the bolsterous, the macho man, the performative masculinity type thing could be bottled up emotions. It could be a whole bunch of stuff that where we don't know how to handle that. Because I bet you there was a point in my life where that was me. I was in a motorcycle club. I was in an outlaw motorcycle club. I'm running around all the time. I'm fighting all the time. Like everything was so tough. I had to be tough, and I felt like I needed to be tough everywhere I went. I felt like, and really the reason I felt that way is because I didn't want to get hurt.
Hmm.
Hmm.
It's protective, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's like don't touch me. You put up that wall. I'm a man. And it's a way to run from yourself, and it's a way to hide from other people.
But to Steve's point, it's protective because there's still that insecurity back there. You're still afraid to get hurt.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
there's like, I feel like they go together in a lot of ways. And we say insecure, and I think that can be kind of like brushed off as, some guy just doesn't feel good about himself. But I think the insecurity is like fear of shame and fear of people looking down on you and fear of people hurting you and all of that, which that's all a version of insecurity. And then the first thing you do is put up this big tough wall, and try to keep people out of
Yeah,
that.
yeah, and I
Just
don't
like
think it's
just like with
helped.
drinking, it's performative because you're afraid to be seen. Period. You are literally afraid to be seen, and the best way to not be seen is to just put a costume on, right? And to just put the mask on, put the costume on, play the role that you think you're supposed to play. And you just go through life, right? Just completely unconscious to shit, right? And it's got to be scary as hell. It is scary as hell to peel back the layers of that costume and that mask and see that there's vulnerability there. And then to have no idea what to do with that because you've either got, kind of to your point, like absent fathers, right? You've got absent fathers, or you've got, horrible role models.
Yeah.
And then you've got moms, right, who like teach, like you said, like emotion, but not in the way that a man really kind of needs to understand emotion and deal with emotion and express emotion. So it's just this big confusing mess. I mean, it's hard to be a woman, it's hard to be a man, it's hard to be human in this world because we're all constantly pulled in so many different social directions of like, what is it to be a woman? What is it to be a man? What is it to be masculine? What is it to be feminine? It's confusing
You
as
know,
hell.
it doesn't help that the term insecure has been weaponized either.
Yeah,
100% agree with that.
So,
like it's a bad thing.
yeah, we have a habit of it's been weaponized in relationships. It's been weaponized. Oh, you're just insecure. Like so we come from that point where we don't want to admit that we have insecure.
Right.
It's admitting that you have a flaw or a fault, and it's admitting that you have a weakness,
Yeah.
right? And then as soon as we admit we have a weakness, we feel like that weakness will be attacked. So if I don't open myself up to that vulnerability, you mentioned that right way at the beginning. If I don't open myself up to that vulnerability, I am less likely to be hurt. I am less likely also to be seen. I am also less likely that I'm going to have an adverse reaction to whatever it is that's happening to me. So, like, I just avoid a shit ton of discomfort if I just show up in a different way.
Yeah.
I was listening to you guys talk. I have a question now, Kev.
Absolutely. Shoot.
I was listening. We're all sitting here talking about like masculinity and performative masculinity. And we got two ladies here, and this is the first time I've thought about this.
Okay.
But what about performative femininity?
Okay. Okay. May I? Okay.
I'm just like the thought crossed my mind, and I'm
Right.
like, I'm gonna crack the egg. What
Yeah,
the hell?
absolutely. So this is my thought on it, and then I will shut up and let other people chime in. Um, so we have men are aggressive. We're aggressive by nature. It's an evolutionary trait. Our emotions come out aggressive. Our emotions come out angry. We can get angry. We tend to turn to anger. That tends to be a man's first kind of go to when he feels emotions. Women are generally they're not aggressive. They're passive aggressive. They're more passive aggressive. So it's going to be more. We're in your face. Women are more kind of manipulation type thing and
Hmm.
reputation destruction. So I would think that to your point, Steve, if we're gonna call something toxically masculine, we can also call something toxically feminine. And I think maybe when it goes, if a man is too aggressive, there is a straight line between don't punch a girl in the face and open the door for her, right? Like a straight line. You open the door for that girl, you're chivalrous, you don't punch her in the damn face. So I think men who are too fucking aggressive, that could come across as what they're calling toxically masculine. And then women who are too passive aggressive in their way, the way they handle things, maybe that could come across as what someone would term. I hate the word toxic masculinity or toxic femininity. I don't think there's anything.
I wasn't even going there. That's why I said
Okay.
performative,
Mhm.
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Either way, we can maneuver some words around performative, toxic.
Yeah.
There's enough of that shit out there where we use it to weaponize stuff against one from one gender to another because it's not normally it's not a dude saying that's toxic masculinity. Normally it's a woman saying that's toxic masculinity, and the first place I go is I wonder how that made you uncomfortable, and vice versa. I mean, it goes the exact same thing the other way around, but I'm going to shut up now and hand this over to the ladies because I'm curious to hear from them.
So like I'm kind of trying to wrap my head around what you're talking about. Performative femininity. So the first thing that comes to mind is so I've been married to someone who works out of town for weeks at a time for the last almost 20 years. So like I can kill a damn spider. And I don't even scream when I do it. I just kill the stupid thing and pick it up and put it in the trash. Until there's a man in the house and then I'm like, "Ah, there's the spider." Right? Or like and
I've seen this happen.
Mhm.
I'm not even joking. Like, if there's a spider in my house and there's nobody there to witness me being dramatic, I'm not going to be dramatic about it. I'm just going to kill the thing. Or like, oh, the light bulb needs changing. Well, I'm here by myself. I'll change the light bulb. Okay, fine. Like, I'll get the step stool. I'm short. If there's a man here, I'm like, oh, I can't change the light bulb. It's very dark in here. So I don't know if that's what you mean. Like, and like, if dude was like, no, I'm not going to do that for you. Like, suck it up. I'd be like, okay, fine, I'll do it. Um, and it's not even, I don't even know why I do it. I don't even think it's a toxic behavior necessarily. Um, but
I
I mean,
think
I'm
that
totally
makes a
guilty of
man
that.
feel more like a man when you do that. I bet that actually makes a man feel needed.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll let it.
Maybe that's what it
Well,
is. I don't know. But like, is that what you mean by performative
I mean, if
femininity?
you can have performative masculinity, you have to have performative femininity, and so maybe the next where my head goes after hearing you talk is the too much makeup,
Oh,
the
okay.
the like making sure your image and your femaleness is
Sexualizing.
sexualized. That's
I
probably what it is.
Okay, that wouldn't
I
even like occur to me because I've never done that.
I'm just like I'm throwing it out there because if there's one on one side, there is one on the other.
Yeah,
100%. And actually, that makes sense if you put it that way. That just wouldn't even cross my mind
yeah. So you
as a
mean like
thing.
hypersexualizing, like hypersexualized, hyper kind of just okay. I understand what you're saying a little bit better now.
I mean I didn't even have that thought in my mind when I originally asked the question. I just thought there is a polar opposite for everything.
Yeah,
And
there's also
we
a
can
reaction.
define toxic masculinity really easily, yet we're struggling to define the feminine version of it.
For me,
Well,
the feminine version of that was performing as a wife and mother and being the perfect wife and the perfect mother. That, I think, if we're talking performative and like my vision of femininity comes with motherhood and being a wife and doing like the girl stuff, right? I've been a stay-at-home mom for 20 years. So that is my picture of femininity, as somebody who takes care of the home and takes care of the children and does the cooking and cleaning, and I love doing that. Like that is my purpose in life. I took it too far for a lot of years, and I tried to make it so perfect that nobody could ever find a flaw in my parenting or my homemaking. And I think maybe that would be for me, because I never did like the makeup and the like fake boobs and all of that stuff. That was never my style. But for me, it was like overdoing the homemaker stuff.
Well,
Maybe I don't know. Does that?
how did that
yeah,
affect you?
I could agree with that. For me, same. It's like, you have this idea that the woman's place in the home is to provide and to please and to nurture and to take care of. And here's the thing. So like when I think of toxic anything, or I think of the actual issue that is really at the root of all of it is this whole idea of women and men being equals, um, because we're not equals. We're not. Men are men, women are women. We have very different qualities about us. We have different strengths. We have different things we bring to the table. And I think when you stop trying to force the other and to have this like equal role, if you will, and allowing each person to just naturally be and bring the strengths that they have. Because like for me, like I said, it was nurturing. I agree with Julie. Like, I mean, I didn't have, children, but it was like meals on tables and doing all the laundry. And like, I became the mother in all of the relationships that I was in. I also sought out that because then I was like, if I could just do more, right? This is all coming from a place of trauma. None of this was coming from a place of like divine femininity where I was in my natural element and I felt safe enough to just be soft and to be feminine. This was all performative, like motherhood and taking care of, other people to the point of abandoning myself and exhausting myself. And that's toxic as fuck. Like that is toxic. Because at no point did I feel safe. At no point, did I feel safe about sharing my emotions, right? Or without there being some sort of an argument, without it being met with like extreme aggressiveness. So yeah, I don't know. That's toxic for me. But the theme that keeps coming up is, and I've talked about it before, is just this thing that we have out in the universe now that, women want to be the equal to men, and it's like no, like we're not. Like men are naturally born stronger, faster. Women have to work for it. If you want to work towards certain things, like that's fine, but we're not equals emotionally, sexually, intellectually. We're different. And if we could just embrace that and acknowledge that in one another then be able to share, it's just like a work environment can be toxic or it can be really healthy. And that all comes down to how it's led is everybody sharing their strengths and their weaknesses. They're allowed to share their weaknesses so that they're known, so other people can come in and be like, oh, that's fine, you don't know how to do that, I know how to do that, I'll do this and you can do this part, like teamwork, we're not equals, but there needs to be teamwork.
I think for far too long, masculinity was a muddy pair of work boots and femininity was a doormat. Okay, so
Yeah.
I think for far too long, feminism it was actually created by a man during World War I or World War II to get women into the factories. But I think it did a lot of good things for
Hmm.
women. I think that the first and couple phases really, women weren't allowed to have their own bank account. Even when women were allowed to work, they could not have their own bank accounts. That the check had to be given to the husband.
They
So
couldn't own a house. Yeah.
We
yeah,
just talked about that at my work today because I work at a credit union and it was just brought up this morning that it was only recently in the early 80s that women were allowed to have their name on bank cards without their husband's name present. Like
yeah. So I
40
think
years.
that it did a lot of good things for women. But I think, as with everything, it has gone too far. And let's say if feminism has gone that far, and we know there's an equal reaction on the other end, always. That's how nature is, right?
Mhm.
Hmm.
So you always have something to counterbalance that. That's, I think we've lost our ways in a way where men and women are not relating to each other the way we should. I think that with women out in the workforce and actually making money, and there women, I think age 21 to 32 are making more money than the men at that age.
Hmm.
So there's been a big tide shift. That's great, but I think I'm going to say from a man's perspective, and I don't want to hear from a women's perspective. From a man's perspective, we don't, what is our job now? So we've got a lot of men who are kind of lost saying, a man needs to be needed. We want like killing a spider. That is great that you do that for your guy because that man killed that spider. He's needed, right? If you went and just killed that spider from him, maybe so I think that we have a lot of men and women and we're getting confused and men we don't know what to do anymore. Like what's our job now? If women can do everything that we can do and we're lost. What we our only shot is to go inside and destroy ourselves with pornography and drugs and alcohol. And I think it's become somewhat of an epidemic, and we've got all this divisive language online between men and women. You cannot scroll without women talking shit about men or men talking shit about women. I mean,
You see
there's
more
so much
women
of this.
talking shit about men these days than you do men talking shit about women.
Mhm.
I think this is a women's problem. Or, no, I think women are the solution here when
Okay,
it comes to men having no feeling like you don't have a place anymore. I
yeah,
think women are going to be a big part of that solution, if not really the whole solution. Because a woman who just talks about how much she doesn't need a man um, just keeps perpetuating that belief and that feeling.
yeah,
It is possible to be perfectly capable as a woman and still need a man in your life.
yeah,
It is possible to go out and make money and do all of the things. And God, you can climb mountains and run marathons and do all of the physical stuff, and you can still need a man. And that doesn't make you weak. But right now, and this kind of speaks to your point, Kevin, like for years, for literal centuries, since basically forever, women have been treated like doormats. It has been completely acceptable for women to be abused and for like horrible things have happened to women simply because they're women. And that is, I mean, we're talking for centuries. That's been the case. And only in the last 30, 40, 50 years has that started to shift. And so, what I think, and Steve and I talked about this one day, what I think is that we're actually right now, we're like in the messy middle of figuring out what it looks like going forward. Like, I don't think we're landing here. I think that we're on the opposite side of the pendulum swing,
okay,
where we're going all the way to women and men are getting treated badly. And my hope, and I really believe that at some point everybody's going to be like, what are we doing here? This isn't okay either. And there's going to be some version, but I mean, God, that could take like more centuries, right?
yeah,
Like who knows how long it'll take, but we've gone so extreme because, and it's valid because as in like, the women before me, our whole sex has been treated really horribly for so long. I mean, there were centuries that it was perfectly acceptable to rape women if you felt like it. And that
Yeah.
was just something women had to accept, that that could happen to them, and it was okay. So
Yeah.
we're talking that, and now we're moving into, okay, women have power, women have rights, women can do these things, and that is fantastic. We have no idea what to do with it. Women don't know what to do with it, men don't know what to do with it. We're all like, okay, we kind of are figuring something out here, but it's just, we're in the messy middle. I think that's where we're at.
Yeah, I'm also I think we have started to treat men like defective women. Okay, so if
Ooh.
you go, men are told we need to be vulnerable, we need to be emotional, and we need to speak out, and we need to do this, we need to do that. Well, 92% of men who had killed themselves in the UK, anyways, um, reached out to either hotlines or to mental health, to counselors. They reached out through these channels, and 80% of them were deemed non-suicidal. So we're not speaking the same language. We don't we I think we need a new model for men's mental health. I know I went to a counseling session once and it was just talking. And I was like, what is this? Like like me just talking about that stuff isn't gonna work. Well, I'm action. Like, I wanna and they're actually dissuaded from giving you direction. Mental health counselors aren't supposed to give you direction. So I think men are more direction based, more action oriented, and we need a new model of mental health for men. When men fail, women falter. All right, so women are affected the most. When men are not being men and we're not being our best selves, women are going to be affected the most.
Okay, I'm going to jump in one more time and then I'll stop talking. See, I'm ranty too, Kevin. You're not the only one. Um, I think the problem with mental health treatment, and this goes to both sides, but maybe even especially men, um, talking to a crisis line, talking to a therapist, that is not connection. That is not two people meeting each other, being vulnerable together, seeing one another, and connecting. That is a dude getting his thoughts and feelings out, which is good. And that's a great place to start, but that still leaves you lonely. So I can call a crisis hotline and somebody can hear my words, but I can't see them and I can't know them, and we are not sharing and connecting in any way. And so the loneliness is the driving factor in suicide. And that still leaves a man lonely. So what men are missing, and women are too, but if we're speaking to men here, what men are missing is connection with each other, like real friends that they can actually break down to, and that will meet them there and will not shame them. And like that is what connection is. If you're not going to be performatively fine all the time and keep it all shoved in, you got to
Yeah,
have people you can talk to, and it has to be equal. It can't be the therapist up here and this broken guy over here. That's not going to make him feel better.
yeah,
So the first thing that comes up for me here is men have lost their third spaces. Third places are not work and not home, but the third place is where they go. We haven't lost them. We don't do them anymore. We don't connect with each other. That third space is generally where men connect with men. So, from my own experience, and this is you, Kevin, talking about like men's mental health needs a different approach, because you're entirely right. Amber talking about women are different, men are different. We experience the world in a different way. We naturally have a different lens, right? So we need to treat the lens of men different than the lens of women.
yeah,
Even though we can still be equals, we can still treat those lenses as equal. And right now, for the most part, trying to treat men's mental health right now is I think it's just on the cusp of being like understanding how important it actually is.
yeah,
It is people like you who speak up about it because you've learned your lesson the hard fucking way, just like I have. And it's like, okay, I've dug my way out of this, but where was the help? It really, you had to fall flat on your face and fuck, in your case, lose a leg. Me have alcoholism before, like, the light bulb comes on and you're like, wow, I need to do something different,
yeah,
instead of having whatever it is that looks like support to you. So from my own personal experience, because I've seen this happen, and I've felt it happen for me too. Is I'm curious about if we put men in spaces where they physically exert themselves together, and then after physical exertion, right? You experience the workout, you experience the hike, you experience the whatever, and you get that energy out, and then focus on the problem solving. We
Have you
start.
go ahead?
Go ahead. No, no, go ahead.
Have you heard of the Australia Shed Initiative? Okay,
Nope.
so we studied men and women. And women, when they communicate with each other, their knees point toward each other, or their feet are pointed toward each other. When men communicate with each other, our feet or our knees are pointed slightly away. From an evolutionary perspective, it's hard to lean on another man. It's we used to go to war together,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And if this guy next to me, if Brian over here, is crying at me, or if he's getting super emotional with me, I don't trust him. That
Mm-hmm.
man's gonna get me killed. He's supposed to have my back. So what Australia did was they took these studies and they put, 6 or 8 guys in a shed and put a broken lawnmower in the middle of the shed. And they'd sit there and they'd look at the lawnmower about 5 minutes and be like, hey, Brian, hand me that wrench. You give him a wrench. Before you know it, indirectly, right, while their main focus was fixing this lawnmower, indirectly, they started venting to each other. And it started becoming kind of this mental health thing where they were, I'm having a hard time with this while they're wrenching on shit. So men have a hard time actually connecting the way women do. Women can go get their nails done and, they can just pour it all out. And men, we have a harder time doing it.
Hmm.
That's why I was, and I've done this. I've gone to like workouts that were actually part of like a recovery meeting,
Yeah.
and then at the end of the workout, you had the opportunity to share if you wanted.
Yep.
And because you spent enough time, even like I did this with a bunch of dudes from the local jail here that went to and did a CrossFit workout, and we did it all together.
Yeah.
And at the end, they were a lot more willing to share than they were at the beginning.
Hmm.
Right, our guard gets let down. We have a little bit more courage. We're not carrying that tense energy that we were carrying before when we didn't really know or understand the other men around us, because we're all like looking at each other and fucking figuring out where we fit on the totem pole.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And a lot of that went down, and they were a lot more relaxed and a lot more open to actual meaningful conversation. So I think connection from man to man happens, like you said, and it happens in a different way. It
Yeah.
happens in the it happens in those third fucking spaces. That's the shed. That's the fixing the lawnmower.
Yeah.
That's the picking up the phone. I picked up the phone and had a conversation with you. I didn't
Yeah.
send you a text message. I didn't do anything. I just picked up the phone and I said, "Hey, Kevin," because I saw your reel and I had a vulnerable question to ask you.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was hesitant because I was like, I don't want to offend the guy, but I mean, I'm being judgy right now, but I'm fucking curious. But if I didn't have the courage to actually do that, we would have never got to know each other a little bit better.
No, we wouldn't have. And did you see what I did the second you called me? Is I went for a walk.
Yep.
I needed to be doing something. I needed to be moving. I needed the conversation on the phone, not to be my primary thing I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did was I walked around the block and I was able to vent to you and I teared up a little bit and I got emotional. And I was able to do that more comfortably because that was not my primary thing. I'm sitting here
Mm-hmm.
walking, I'm watching where I'm walking, I'm looking around the neighborhood. And that kind of took the pressure off of me as a man to allow me to be able to be like that. So,
There is actually something physiological slash psychological about going for a walk when you're talking to somebody about something vulnerable. And I can't remember the whole premise behind it, but I remember that our couples therapist told us to go for a walk and talk, because there's something to do with the balance and like the equal movement of your feet, and everything like levels you and like settles your nervous system so that it makes you feel more balanced when you're having the conversation. He also told us to do that when we were talking to our teenager. He was like, don't just sit down and be like, hey, can we have a conversation? You take that kid for a walk and then you have your conversation. So
That's good.
there's like some stuff in there that proves that that's actually true. It
You
keeps
know,
you
that's
more balanced.
it is so true though, because like when you and I go out for a hike,
It's when we have our
we
best
have
talks.
we have some of our best conversations when we're out on a hike.
Mhm.
It is it's like we'll talk until we're out of shit, and then there's like this peaceful silence, and then new idea comes up or whatever, and then we'll talk again. Anyways, some of the best conversations we've had show up while we're walking.
Yep.
So while we are kind of nearing the end of this, I would like to pose a couple questions for the ladies. All right, so for people who are watching, since there is so much divisive language between men and women, okay, one of the things I see the most is that men need to make you feel safe to be feminine. I would like your two take on that. I'd like your take on that and what that means, and maybe kind of decipher that for us.
I've talked a lot, Amber, so you should go first here.
Put it in Latin.
Yeah, I mean, this is a hard one, because I don't know. I mean, maybe it comes down to expectation. I don't know, if the expectation is not to provide, but I don't know. It's a tricky one for me because relationships are, I've been single for the first time since I was in high school for the last year and a half. Um, and that's literally like that's a big deal to me. I have always been someone's significant other. So I'm still trying to figure out what safety feels like for me. Um, so I don't know how to really, really fully answer that. But I think to feel safe in my feminine is to just to it comes down to performance, to just not feel like I have to perform any sort of duty um to be cared about or to be loved, to just be able to be myself, whatever that looks like, silly, goofy, nurturing, working, to explore the things that bring me joy, to explore things that I'm passionate about, um, and to be able to share all of myself, who I am, without judgment and without argument and without um, aggression. Yeah, to just be able to talk and connect um, would be would be wonderful. And I will let you know when I find it. Oh,
All right, so we're
wow.
talking what makes us feel
So
safe
this,
to
yeah, it's
be in
kind of
our
a rough,
feminine.
yeah, it's kind of a hard question, okay? Because I don't. So I see posts all over the place of women saying, "Well, I need to be able to, you need to make me feel safe. I need to be able to feel safe to be feminine, right? To express that femininity." Now I'm kind of on both sides of it because I'm like, well, I think a lot of that safeness is found in you, but then also with the way men have been toward women, I think men also need to hold some sort of a safe space and make them feel like they're not going to be the doormat to a muddy pair of words.
Yeah, so oh, I have so many thoughts. I'll try to not make this really long.
Do
From
your
a
thing.
like if and so if we're talking like in a relationship,
Yes.
physically it's comforting for me when I feel like a guy can take care of me, can protect me from other people. And that's not a guy being out there all tough and macho. It's just knowing in his like quiet masculinity that I can count on him to take care of me. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's it's because that's not like bragging that how tough he is. That's just that I have that confidence in who he is and his courage, and his confidence in himself. So there is that if we're talking like that, I mean, I'm feminine, I'm a woman, I'm tiny.
Yeah.
I will go into spaces where I'm physically unsafe, and to know that there's a man that's willing to protect me, that means a lot. That's important to me. If we're talking emotionally, a couple thoughts come here. First, I think that a lot of the women are like, you need to make me feel safe emotionally. And what they're really saying is, you need to deal with my really unhealthy responses and behaviors and tell me it's okay. And that is completely unacceptable. So I think women need to check in and be like, is that what I'm asking for? Because if that is, then they need to just go work on themselves and leave the man out of it, because it's not his fault they're acting that way.
Yeah.
If the woman is actually being truly vulnerable and is needing a place to feel safe and heard and seen, then the most important thing a man can do is just let her say the things that she needs to say and not respond in a way that makes her feel unsafe. And by feeling unsafe, I don't just mean like yell at her. I mean, so from my personal experience, I've never been like with an aggressive man who has made me feel physically unsafe, but I have been with somebody who every time I express any emotion that is hard for him to see me feel, he tries to shut it down and tell me why I shouldn't feel that way. So I'm invalidated over and over again. You shouldn't feel that way. Oh, you're making too big of a deal out of it. Over and over again, that becomes unsafe, because then I realize I can't feel the way I feel. I need to keep everything inside. I need to hide it. Then I go drink. I mean, not now, but that's what I did for so many years.
Yeah.
So the emotional safety is like, hey, I can say these things to you and you can hear me, and you can either hold me or help me problem solve if that's what I've asked for, or provide what I need there in a way that doesn't make me feel like it's demeaning or like I'm being put down or belittled or looked down on for being weak and pathetic, because those are my experiences. And then the last thing I will say is that it's easier to feel emotionally safe in a relationship, especially bringing emotions to him, if he's also capable of doing that for me. Like he can bring his emotions to me. So I can see that he respects vulnerability and understands vulnerability, and is also able to show up in that way. That's that equals thing, right? But
Yeah.
then also women are really bad at accepting men's vulnerability, because we're like, oh my God, why are you being such a sissy about it? So, like, we need to figure some stuff out there too. Anyway, women are so much of the problem in all of this. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Okay, I'll stop now. God, I could rant for a while.
I think I think a lot of masculinity has to do with not being emotionally reactive. And I think when a
Yeah,
man is emotionally reactive in a relationship, I think that that's going to create,
Mhm.
that's not going to help create a sense of safety, because he cannot properly lead. Because if he is being emotionally reactive, I cannot trust him. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
I've I have found that in my own life also. I used to be a very emotionally reactive man. So I
Hmm.
learned how to put space between my emotions and my reaction so that I can fully process them and I'm not just. That's been something I've had to learn in my life.
And
It
let's be clear too, though, emotionally reactive doesn't just mean get angry or just explode or whatever. Emotionally reactive also means just shut down and
Yeah,
shut everybody out. And that
because
is just as detrimental to a relationship.
that's a
just
reaction
it
also. Yeah,
yeah,
Exactly.
like silence is damaging as fuck,
yeah,
right? Like, and somehow right now in society we encourage that, or we encourage like throwing somebody each other under the bus after the fact. I don't understand that. We need to, as men and women, sit down in a fucking room and figure our shit out together and learn how to talk to each other in a way that's respectful.
Hmm.
And I'm going to say that with fucking enthusiasm. Like, be respectful. Right now, we don't want to hear what each other has to say on either side of the fence, whether it's healthy or unhealthy. We need to stop throwing each other right under the fucking bus and say, well, you're the fucking problem because you have all of those fucking fingers pointing at you. Because if you're blaming other people for your fucking problem, you're missing the whole point. You might as well look at yourself in the goddamn mirror first. It's Groundhog Day all over again, is what it turns out to be. We all need to take care of our shit better, plain and simple.
I've got
And go ahead.
I've got an analogy that I'd like to close with that I came up with a couple of years ago when I first started kind of looking into masculinity and femininity. And during women, that they've always been kind of represented by the moon, right? It's the tides and the ocean and the flow. And men have kind of they've been the sun. So if you look at a lunar eclipse, okay, if you look at the eclipse, the moon, the woman shades the man from the world. And in doing that, the man shines light on the part of the woman that never gets light in any other time. So I think that our biggest problem is a fence. There shouldn't be a fence between us to begin with. I think that when we come together and we learn to come together in a very healthy way, we can actually help each other heal. I don't know how we get to that place on a larger scale. I know we've got a whole bunch of smaller scales of that going on right now, but on a larger scale, men and women complement each other. We heal each other. We help each other heal from past traumas. And yeah, we are not equal. Women are far more intelligent than us, first of all. Okay, that's actually been proven. I hate to admit that, but women are far more intelligent than us. They've got more emotional intelligence. They're able to build a little body inside their body somehow. We don't know how they freaking do it, how they go through the whole childbirth thing. So we are not equal, but we are not unequal also. And so I kind of wanted to close out with that and say thank you very much for being on the podcast. It was very good to meet you. And I'm not sure if we even got so far into the bones of this discussion today. So this is going to be an ongoing discussion because I
Part
think,
two coming.
yeah, it's so thank you very much, Julie. Thank you, Amber. And thank you, Steve, once again, bro. You're going to be, I'll be shooting you a text sometime this weekend or this week.
Sounds like a plan, man. I'm looking forward to hear from you.
All right. You guys have a good night.
Yep. Thanks for
Thank
having us
you.
on.
Thanks for having us.